Good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Link to the Past Randomizer Spoiler Tournament. We have a Week 6 match here between SirLinkalot and MrScruffNinjaTuna. How's it going, folks? I am Wolfling0370, and joining me on the mic is Clearmouse. How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. This would be a very interesting match, actually.
That's right. So, just a little bit of a road to how they got here, folks, as I opened the wrong notes. Good job, me, for having that open. MrScruffNinjaTuna lost to Pika Pals in Week 1, but proceeded to beat Tabby Cat, Birds 505, and Rampant Revenant in the following weeks, and then lost to Freddy last week. SirLinkalot is actually in a similar boat. Won his first week match against OAC 28, but then got beat by F. Coughlin, James FNX, and literally Jen before... Oh no, he won those. My mistake. He lost to... I'm getting confused now. But he lost. His second match loss was last week to Sailor Neff in Week 5. And if you haven't tuned into these before, this is a spoiler seed in which both runners have access to the entire item pool, the spoiler log, if you will, so they know where everything in the seed is, as do we. Here, in fact, you can check in our trackers. Yoinkier's wife, our tracker tonight, has already put out the prizes for you down there for the dungeons, as well as the medallion requirements for Misery Mire and Turtle Rock. And looking at the spoiler log, we might be here a little bit longer than usual.
Yeah, we are in week 6 out of 7 for the Swiss round for this tournament, and because these guys are both 3-2, this tournament match will be extremely important because the person who goes 4-2 will have an opportunity to advance into week 7 for potentially get a spot in brackets. So hopefully, best of luck to both these runners.
Indeed. Unfortunately, the reverse is also sadly not true. Anyone who's 3 losses in this will unfortunately not be able to qualify for the final spots because we only are going to accommodate 8 runners in the top for our bracket stage of this spoiler log tournament. And we'll get started here in just a matter of seconds as Sir Link's counter moves forward. And they have a hookshot to start things off, as well as 20 rubies from the house.
Yeah, so some very early divergence here. We will definitely see what these runners' routing will be. This is a pretty open seed, so I guess we're definitely going to see what their strategy is here.
Indeed. So Sterling is opting to pick up the hookshot first, which is a good mobility item to start things off. Meanwhile, MrScruffNinjaTuna is opting to head over here to the dam, which means there might be something here that he wants.
Yeah, looks like an early Houlihan play.
And it's the flute for MrScruffNinjaTuna, and yeah, Houlihan for SirLinkalot, which tells us something about this seed, I think, already.
Also, early money is always nice. They can buy bombs. They can buy other resources. Certainly, they can pay off the bottle vendor, and of course, there's always the king of profit, which is King Zora himself.
Yeah, and having an early rupee grind start this early on is...
Yeah, it looks like even some more divergence here. So after getting the flute, not going to Kakariko immediately to activate it, but looks like we are going to get potentially Lost Woods. Oh, getting some... well, trying to get some bombs from the rupee crab, or the bomb crab here. Unfortunately, had a little bit of bad RNG, so wasn't actually able to get as many bombs, but hopefully 2 will be enough for him. Yeah, so in addition to the spoiler log that these guys have, which tells them where all 216 item locations are, it also does tell you other information, such as, in this case, the rupee crab, or the bomb crab in this case, as well as, like, say, tree pulls, and the number of digs you need for the dig game. So all of that information is available to our runners.
Alright, so SirLinkalot's now moving over to get to the flute himself. Mr. Scruff is going to opt to get the flute online and maybe get what else Kakariko Village has to offer.
SirLinkalot is headed over to, looks like, the desert area, getting bombs out, so probably going to visit Agina first since he has no book, and they already know what Desert Ledge is. This is probably the only realistic play. Meanwhile, MrScruffNinjaTuna pulls out the Cane of Samaria and a sword out of Blind's hideout.
Really important items here.
Hey, we found a very, well, I don't know if it's convenient or not, but we did find our first glove on SirLinkalot's side in Agina's cave. Lots of early progression, really just scattered about everywhere. So certainly quite understand the divergence with both these runners. We do see SirLinkalot here visiting the rupee farm right outside of Desert. This is 50 rupees per trip, so this is probably even a stronger indication that King of Zora has something.
Yeah, there's got to be something the King Zora has. They're trying to aggressively money route this early. And judging by early game items, it looks like it may be related to our Dark World access if we're trying to get it this early.
Yeah, it's also kind of interesting here though because MrScruffNinjaTuna has not spent any amount of time trying to get any amount of rupees, right? I mean, the only 20 he picked up was from Link's house. So maybe, you know, he found something else in the spoiler log of interest for him to also get him rupees, or he's just gonna divert it.
Well, it is Zora. We'll find out in a little bit because SirLinkalot is now at the rupee total he needs. There's the mirror, though, from the NPC in Mini Wilderness Cave.
We also did see an early cape pickup with the lamp and the fighter sword. Aga 1 is certainly looming in our future. Of course, like as commentators, we would never wish that upon our running, right?
Given the nature of this spoiler season, our runners probably already know that if it's Aga or not. So we'll see them make the call sooner rather than later if it is required. Nice full magic drop though from the Sandcrab for MrScruffNinjaTuna. That is a very valuable fill up. And there's the flippers in Ice Ride Cave. Yikes, that's a long way to go for those.
Okay, given that Swamp Palace is our crystal, those flippers are hard required. We did see SirLinkalot pick up another 20. It looks like he's just getting as much money as he possibly can. In this case, he ended up draining the dam. I'm not sure if I saw MrScruffNinjaTuna do that on his side. I think he just ended up picking up the flutes.
So now for Agina here from MrScruff. Speaking of that progressive glove. So SirLinkalot now heading over to Kakariko to activate their flute. Taking a little bit of a detour though, looks like. Maybe something in the Lost Woods that SirLinkalot wants. Although, yeah, I guess with the lamp being there, I think we saw MrScruff pick that up. And MrScruff is now also beginning the money grind.
So this is kind of interesting because I guess MrScruffNinjaTuna did not end up hula handing at the beginning. That was a relatively free and fast 225 rupees. So if he's going to farm up all 500 rupees from the rupee farm here for 50 rupees a trip. This will definitely, so SirLinkalot definitely means that he's gained some time on MrScruffNinjaTuna here.
Golden hand play from SirLinkalot was the ideal play in this situation. Especially considering it doesn't look like we have a 300 rupee that is nearby that it would be expediting the process. There's a bottle we overlooked as well from SirLinkalot. Mr. Scruff must also have that one as well. Nice little safety to have of a bottle fairy. And that's something else we should probably mention about these races here and the format we're playing in. Because the runners know where everything are, the amount of safeties they pick up, the heart containers, the armor, they know where they are. They can choose to pick up as many or as few of them as they want. And also, because of the format that we're in, this is not a normal randomizer race in the sense that they are completely in their own little isolated box. They're allowed to watch each other stream, or even watch on the restream here as well. Although, I don't think they'll be appreciating this one. They might be focusing intensely on the routes. But yeah, getting back to the safeties here, which this format is extremely high risk, high reward. You're going to see a lot of plays at low health just to try to save as much time as possible. And deaths are going to be a possibility, if not an assured thing that will happen at some points. So having a fairy like this for both runners is a nice little fallback there. They can play a little bit loose. But once that fairy goes, they have to play extremely carefully.
Yeah, and we see both runners here on 4 hearts and 3 hearts respectively, and green mail, so they certainly will have to be a bit careful. They haven't entered the Dark World yet. Oh, interesting.
Mr. Gruff, getting the armor as well as 300 rupees here in Paradox Cave. Nicely routed.
They're also picking up some blue armor, so certainly, given that he has 3 hearts, that armor is a very, very nice safety upgrade here.
You know, think about it, both our runners did something that they still ended up grinding rupees with the 50 pots. But if they did both, if they each did what the other one did, just as a hindsight here, they would have had easily enough money without having to grind at all. So having a little bit of extra money for Mr. Scruff is actually a really good thing, because that also gives him money for Palace of Darkness in order to open it up, along with maybe anything else we might need to buy later. And they're both now approaching Waterfall Fairy, getting a heart piece and a heart container.
Yeah, actually very interesting routing from SirLinkalot. So because MrScruffNinjaTuna found the 300 up in Paradox Cave and the blue armor, perhaps SirLinkalot did not want to go up to the mountain and make that extra trip for the money.
King Zora has the Moon Pearl. That is indeed important to have for Dark World access, but without a hammer or without a second glove, we can't really go anywhere yet. But wait a minute. Oh no, we have access to Aghanim. Don't tell me. They have the cape. This just screams Aghanim right now from Mr. Scruff.
Currently heading towards the Hyrule Castle location. Looks like SirLinkalot is following suit. MrScruffNinjaTuna paying a visit to Uncle first, getting an extra heart container.
Like I said, just little safeties. If you can get them on their way, they're really good to have. That's a good one to pick up. Alright, so SirLinkalot is the first one into Aghanim Tower, and this is the most bare bones climb we have here with a fighter sword, or lamp, and cape. And a boomerang to stun these guards, thankfully, which will make things a little bit easier. Although, these ball and chain guards do not stay stunned for very long. Nice lucky dodge there. The SirLinkalot doesn't have the armor that MrScruff has. So it's definitely going to be relying on that fairy to get him out of a tight spot. Meanwhile, MrScruff is opting for a setup here to get double spin. So this is actually going to work a little bit better, I think, overall.
And certainly for more players familiar with NMG, this is a very common strat to do spin strats. Does have Master Sword normally before when you come here, but certainly yeah, spin strats are very common.
And they needed the lamp for this room that SirLinkalot's in right now. They need to keep to enter, and lastly, they do need a sword to cut the curtain at the very top. So they have everything they need for Aghanim, and this is unfortunately an Aghanim required seed, which, or at least so it's looking like it is. And based on this, and the fact that we don't have the glove or the hammer, it's pretty safe to say, at this point, that they're locked in Dark World by something. In Dark World. What that is yet, we don't know.
And certainly, unless the hammer is on the pyramid itself afterwards, we're going to have, even after beating Aghanim, we're going to have some limited locations where we can visit Dark World in.
Well, they actually have quite a lot of Dark World access available to them, actually, with the flippers and the hookshot. They can go all the way over to Thieves Town, in fact.
Yeah, I was mainly thinking they couldn't take the bridge south because of the hammer pigs, and they also probably I was just thinking that they can't go directly south. But yes, you're certainly correct in that because they have the flippers and the hookshot, there is a somewhat perhaps lesser known route potentially to newer runners that you can actually get to the east side of Dark Worlds through a path most likely these runners are going to show us.
Yeah, they're probably gonna. The way I see the routing here is they're probably going to do a... best way I can describe is they're going to start by going northeast from the pyramid and then work their way around counterclockwise with the pyramid being in the center. Through Dark World. That's the most common way you see these hammerless Dark World routing go. Be nice if the hammer's on the pyramid, but we'll see. Anyway, folks, there's a little bit of a minigame we're playing here, and unfortunately we've already started. Aghanim here shoots a guaranteed reflectable shot at the start of his 5-attack pattern. His next 3 attacks afterwards are going to be either reflectable shots or non-reflectable little blue shots. That's what they have to call them, the blue balls. And afterwards, he finishes his attack cycle with a lightning strike from the top of the room downwards. After which his cycle repeats, and... well, the worst case scenario is if you hit every shot and get every single blue shot, you get a total of, I think, what is it, 21? 18? I forget. Anyway, it's already done, so I think it was only like 2. Oh, MrScruff! That's bad. That's really bad. He missed a shot. So he's gonna have to go a little bit longer in this Aghanim fight. Yes, it is 15 max, but for MrScruff, it might be a little bit higher.
Alright, so we see SirLinkalot being the first of our 2 runners here, making his way into Dark World, and looks like he is in fact taking the north, lesser known route into East Dark World with hookshot and the glove.
This is actually in the vanilla game the intended way to get over to this side of the Dark World, I think. At least from the pyramid. Because you don't normally have access to the glove, and you're already in Dark World at this point in time. Doing, intentionally, you're doing Swamp Palace next. But Energy doesn't follow that order at all. They usually say Swamp for one of the last dungeons they do, actually. At least last I checked. It's been a while. And entering Thieves Town right away.
Yeah, we did see MrScruffNinjaTuna looks like he's following suit. He is, in this case, probably, well within probably like a minute behind SirLinkalot here, but he did end up missing one of the Agnum shots. But then also he took an extra trip to East Death Mountain in order to pick up a few safeties. So this is, this is well within, any real margin. The leads here like can change like very, very quickly.
And I think chat is a little bit confused about the crystal counts. So, in terms of the crystal numbering, it goes Palace of Darkness, Swamp Palace, Skull Woods, Thieves Town, Ice Palace, Misery Mire, Turtle Rock. That is the quote-unquote intended way to go through the dungeons in the Dark World. But because of this, there's a very little... words are hard sometimes. There is a little bit of open-endedness to that, and you can say go to Thieves Town as soon as you get the hammer from Swamp Palace, or not Swamp Palace, Palace of Darkness.
One of those dungeons. It's okay.
Exactly. Again, words are hard.
You can see SirLinkalot making his way up to the top of Thieves Town here, making very good use of that hook shot. Without the boots, that hallway is certainly not friendly. So certainly having some amount of mobility and invincibility with the hook shot here will certainly help out. And given that he is only on green mail, these crickets will do 2 hearts of damage, so he is really not like terribly safe. Alright, meanwhile, MrScruffNinjaTuna is also following suit. He does have blue mail, so he can take a little bit more damage.
Yeah, that's gonna matter a lot here with the Hellway, although both runners do have the cape, which is probably why SirLinkalot didn't opt to get the armor up on the mountain. But right now, they are at critical health totals for both sides. SirLinkalot needs to get past 8 heart containers to survive the highest source of damage in the game, which is Ganon's contact damage. Mr. Scruff with the blue mail only needs to get another heart container as well to get to 6. Get out of 6. He needs 7. Looks like both runners are going through Thieves Town here.
Yeah, both runners here without the hammer certainly indicates that there's probably nothing in the big chest.
Yeah, and if there is it's likely... Considering they beeline here, without the hammer, one can assume the hammer may be locked behind this dungeon. And if something's in the big chest after that, then that's just a really rude seed on top of already being an Agnum seed.
No one ever wants to double dip Thieves Town for this.
Yeah, I agree.
Alright, SirLinkalot starting his blind fight. He has, he's following his script so far relatively well. He does have the cape as a safety.
Yeah, and he's gonna need it too because lost the pattern there for the scripted fight. Does a nice cleanup there though, gets it done. And there's a bow. So that gives us access to Palace of Darkness.
And
well, without the hammer, I might add.
So they can't clear pod, but if they're in the area, they can certainly full clear Eastern at this point.
And honestly, Eastern's the 5-6. It would be worthwhile to do Eastern first. And I think that's what SirLinkalot's going to do. No, we're actually going to Hera. It looks like.
Or maybe, or at least maybe, certainly just more stuff up the mountain. I mean, so MrScruffNinjaTuna did make his play earlier here, so he could also want to stop by Paradox Cave to get safeties. But certainly not at this moment because, as you said, maybe he is interested in Hera.
Well, the main reason I'm thinking it's Hera is because the 5-6 crystal, the other 5-6 crystal is Hera today. So, definitely making a priority on those crystals. Which could mean that considering they could do Eastern Palace and Pod first. might be hinting at something.
We see some more of critters, I guess, on Death Mountain after Agnum.
Yeah. So, a little bit of a mention here as both runners have Agnum defeated here. Our tracker does not reflect that. When you defeat Agnum, the overworld actually goes over a massive overhaul. And basically what that means is this Red Guard is not normally here in Eastern Palace, and neither are the enemies on the west side of Death Mountain. Basically, the light world gets basically turned into hard mode, is the best way I can describe it.
All right, so your postulation here for something behind the pyramid is certainly supported here by circumstantial evidence. We do see MrScruffNinjaTuna beelining his way to Eastern, which, as you said, is a 5/6 crystal, and SirLinkalot is in Hera, which is the other 5/6 crystal.
Yeah, it's looking like it's pretty much straight up. There is something on Pyramid Ferry that they both want. They're just choosing a different route here, so a little bit of divergence going through it. There might be a few more safeties on Mr. Scruff's pack, because it looks like he is prioritizing safeties a little bit more than Sir Link based on the early blue mail. But we'll see.
Yeah, certainly kind of unfortunate because normally what runners like to do is, if they can, they want to save Hera as their last crystal. Because typically what would happen is you would be in the Dark World, you would mirror, do Hera, get your last crystal, and then take your portal right back from Dark World. Then you're right at GT. But it definitely does not look like it's the case today.
Yeah, and because of that, that ultimately just further cements my thought that this is going to be a required Pyramid Ferry seed as well, because so that simple logic, they're getting this crystal now instead of waiting until the end of the game. So there must be something on Pyramid Ferry this seed. And Fighter Moldorm, very nicely done from SirLinkalot, has a small key on him, but more importantly, it does get also the second crystal of the match. Mr. Scruff will soon be following suit with the Armos Knights being taken down just a couple of rooms away at this point.
Alright, it's a very good sight to see that SirLinkalot does not have to do tile room for Hera. In spoiler log races, because you know where everything is, you definitely don't want to see things like, I have to do Hera basement, or the big key of Misery Mire is in the vanilla key, a big key location, so I have to wait for like a very long cutscene. On MrScruffNinjaTuna's side, takes down Armos. I think he slightly got off from the quick heal, but made a very, very nice recovery at the end.
Both runners having excellent boss fights this seed. At least we don't... I'm just looking at the pendants and crystals, and at the very least, it looks like we do need to find that tricky ice rod, which is a blessing in disguise, but who knows? Maybe it's a pet seed. I'm not saying. Our runners will know. I'm not saying. Actually, I don't even recall what was on the pedestal. I guess we'll find out later.
Yeah, certainly if it's going to be a pet seed, these runners will show us one way or another.
Indeed. Indeed. And that is something else to mention, folks. Just a little bit of how the spoiler log works once again. And they have 15 minutes to study the spoiler log and plan their route, and they are now executing that planned route for us right now as we are 27 minutes in. That being said, they are still allowed to reopen the spoiler log and peruse it to see if there's safeties or anything, or where the keys are, maybe just to micromanage the route just a little bit more.
Yeah, so these runners are essentially swapping dungeon locations here. Looks like MrScruffNinjaTuna is going to do the bomb setup for Herapot. Not having the boots, this is probably the only way he can really get up there. First try though, and executes very well.
That is very well done.
It's
yeah,
pretty
kind of pointing out something here that's kind of interesting. We haven't seen those boots yet.
Yeah, and in fact, they've done multiple dungeons at this point, both Eastern and Thieves Town, that would have really benefited from the boots. So that just probably indicates that boots are deeper within our path.
Yeah, probably in GT is my guess.
That's so mean. I don't want to think about boots in GT.
Well, they would be beelining to the boots if they had access to them right now. And considering how open the seat is, or rather how choked the seat is, not really room for them to be anywhere else, honestly. But we'll see.
Yeah, almost simultaneous crystal pickups here.
So 2-4, so this is a Pyramid Fairy turn-in for both runners. SirLinkalot is going to opt to take the Pyramid Portal because they don't have the hammer currently. And that's actually... I can almost double require this seed, thinking about it here. Because we don't have the hammer yet, and ideally you would want that hammer for whatever is on this Pyramid Fairy, just to make it easier to get that super bomb over. Oh, and they have to take this long trek around too, I just realized. Because there's no docks on the south side for them to swim across.
Assuming they are going for the bomb shop, SirLinkalot has exactly 100 rupees.
SirLinkalot has exactly 100 rupees. MrScruff has 146. And here's the thing, if they are going for Super Bomb, they still need more rupees. Because they still haven't paid the Geeky the Monkey to open up Palace of Darkness yet. And that requires another 110. So we might see SirLink... Okay, no. I was thinking maybe SirLink would dip into the arrow shooting minigame and try to multiply his cash real quick to have that money, but that's just something I thought of on the fly. Maybe we'll see MrScruff do that, or maybe neither will do it. And to be fair, I don't blame them for not doing it, because that game is kind of annoying to do unless you know a trick. SirLinkalot is continuing south to Hype Cave. At least it's the first time we're seeing this. And 300 rupees. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Just imagine having to walk all this way through Dark World multiple times just to get money. Alright, MrScruffNinjaTuna stopping by Stumpy. I don't believe SirLinkalot did this on his way to Hype Cave, picking up another bottle with red potion. So I think this is, yeah, so this should be a fairy and a red potion for MrScruffNinjaTuna here.
Yeah, it's funny, we should have attempted to put a mirror portal like Kakariko. That actually would have been a good idea, actually, now that I think about it. Saved a little bit of walking.
Yeah, this is one very small advantage to beating Agnum usually is because you could just kind of take this portal instead of kind of going around. But in this case, because our runners don't have the hammer, this is actually the only way to get back to the pyramid.
Yeah. It's for the single arrow, but more importantly, the fire rod as well. And if they need the fire rod in the scene in which Skullwoods and Turtle Rock are optional dungeons, that says something, I think. Where's SirLink going this time? Once again, back into the pyramid portal. And once again, looks like they're taking a long walk.
Yeah, I think this is walk number 3 for these guys.
Actually, why did SirLinkalot save quit? I'm trying to think about it. SirLinkalot could have just walked down the pyramid and came back this way. That was a little bit of a mental hiccup there, I think. If they were going to Skull Woods, which it looks like they are doing. I think what happened here is we had a case of muscle memory trying to go to Fluja 3, to go to Kakariko, to go to Skull Woods.
And then realizing, yeah, and then realizing that we don't actually still have our traditional Dark World access. I mean, so I certainly can't fault any of these runners, because in a spoiler race things are already pretty tense enough, right? You're trying to, within the 15 minutes, you're trying to construct some sort of cohesive route for you, and then during the run you're also just trying to keep track of 50 different things. It's very, very easy to just fall back to muscle memory and then kind of just realize later on, oh, I actually don't have something I'm looking for.
Yeah, muscle memory is something you do have to fight sometimes when you are actually plotting your route instead of just randomizer. Okay, I'm just gonna open every chest on the way. You actually have to fight that instinct with randomize with spoiler log races, and trust me, it's not easy. More power to these runners for it actually being able to do so.
Yeah, we were wondering, or at least you were wondering earlier where these boots are. Where are our swords, right? They've beaten out what? This is our 4th dungeon on Fighter Sword. Now, not even like the hammered help out too.
I can't even begin to fathom where the swords are right now, or how deep in the sea they are. But it looks like we are fighting the Moth. So unless the Moth has something, then we have a pretty good idea of what's gonna be in the next play here. Because in case you can't tell on the tracker, folks, Moth is the green pendant.
Yeah, Fighter Sword Mothula with looks like maybe 2 fire rod shots is not going to be a very pleasant experience.
Yeah, they do have the fairy still, I believe, for both runners, so they do have a failsafe. But no armor is going to protect you against this Moth. You're still going to take... The main damage is the spikes, and they do a whole heart regardless. And unfortunately, Mothula is immune to spikes. Oh, Mr. Scruff. Made it a little carefully. Oh, down goes Mr. Scruff, but does have the fairy.
Yeah, good thing he picked up that fairy. So in terms of safety armor, MrScruffNinjaTuna does have the blue mail. Won't help him out against the spikes, but certainly will help him out against Mothula himself.
Moth is down. It only has the compass to show for it, so the green pendant is required this seed apparently. Oh boy, what does the hospital have for us now? And I'm not sure, but it looks like Mr. Scruff may have picked up a second bottle. Maybe he has a second fairy as well.
So MrScruffNinjaTuna picked up a bottle with red potion from Stumpy when he was on his way to Head Cave.
Ah, yeah, okay, red potion. That would make more sense.
Yeah, so on SirLinkalot's side, a very nice Mothula fight. Of course, like really, any Mothula fight that's on Fighter Sword is nice if you can finish it.
Yeah, Mr. Scruff flew to the fly there. I think a little bit of muscle memory kicked in there as well. Don't have the hammer to enter that portal, but it looks like he's just heading over to the hospital anyway. Whereas SirLink is entering from the Dark World. So it looks like SirLink may be setting up to do Pod into Eastern, or no, just Palace of Darkness after this. Which, yeah. Oh, I think this just says outright what this is then. You need one item to beat Palace of Darkness. And it's the hammer. There it is. Wow, what a rude seed. Holy. I can't even describe this. So, you need the 5-6 crystals and the moon pearl from Zora to get the fire rod so you can beat Skull Woods to get your hammer, and now we have traditional Dark World access. That's... I don't even know if I should call that a rude mid-game or a rude early game. I want to say both. And yeah, SirLink with the routing here is now in to Palace of Darkness. definitely in the lead at this point. Mr. Scruff, without enough rupees to enter, is going to have to get the 300 here in Hype Cave.
Yeah, certainly, SirLinkalot made a very good routing decision here because, after he had finished Makula, he ended up kind of going back in the Dark World. He had enough money because he picked up 300 from Hype Cave, so he can just, and because now he has a hammer and everything he needs to beat both Pod and Eastern, is just very efficient for him.
Yeah, he was looking to be Pod and then Swamp. No Titan's Mitch yet, and no Ether Medallion for Misery Mire. And we need the Titan's Mitch for Ice. And ideally, we want to see those boots as well, but details at this point. Alright. Certainly I'm picking up a small key. A couple small keys, actually.
But this seed, looking back, was exceedingly expensive. We had to get 500 rupees for Zora. We needed money to buy the big bomb, and we needed Palace of Darkness money.
That's 710 rupees at the very least, and not including any other expenses they had to make alongside like bombs and the like. Which thankfully the bombs were fairly nice to seed. Anyway, going to go get the big key, going to Harvest Hellway. Sir Link is not done yet. Going backwards here for something. The silvers were in. Okay, so that means the bow in Thieves Town was required. There was no way to get to this bow because we had 2 small keys on the bow lock side. So this was a bow lock pod.
Given the hammer placement and what these guys had to go through to get that hammer, I think at least the seed is nice enough to reward them with silvers.
Yeah, that's a nice thing to have. Although, to be perfectly blunt, I think the runners would prefer being rewarded with the boots more so than the silvers, just so they can get out of the seat faster. Snake card picked up for Sir Link. Yeah, we're only. Oh, there's the Titans. We're 1-9 away from go mode now. Just need an Ether Medallion.
Yeah, certainly maneuvering around Pod with the mirror is a lot nicer than not having a mirror as well.
Oh, yeah. And they needed them here at this point because that was the only way they could get to Hera. In order to get the fire rod, in order to get the bow, or not the bow, the hammer to finish this dungeon. So it worked out in the end. It was just a very convoluted road to get there in the first place. And we still don't know where our swords are, actually. I spoke a little bit too soon in regards to go mode. And chat was calling me out on that, I see. I am prone to forget one thing half the time with this.
We did see SirLinkalot taking advantage of the King of Samaria not having to drag the statue to put down the switch. It's always a really nice time save to be able to have the cane around here. And at least for this particular fight, because they have the silvers, the fighter's sword will not actually hinder either of these runners. They'll just need 17 hammer hits to Helmasaur's face, and then 1 silver arrow.
Yeah. Fighter's sword actually doesn't do any damage to Helmasaur King unless you do spin attacks, I believe.
Spin attacks on fighter's sword or 1 silver arrow.
1 silver arrow. There's always 1 silver arrow. Now, as Master Sword, I consider maybe doing spin attacks against Helmasaur King. Because that's just 4 spin attacks and that's game over, and you want to keep your mobility a bit.
Yeah, even
But if you
for
can kill him, why not?
yeah, probably one thing that sometimes or like at least like or earlier runners like don't necessarily realize is that the fighter sword, even though it does do less damage as expected, its reach is also less. So master sword spins can do some damage, but like you have to get a lot closer to helmet sword if you're gonna do fighter sword spins as well.
Yep, and there we go. One singular shot, and that's all she wrote for Helmsword King. And I think there was also an attempt to maybe checkmate the runners here with a tail swipe plus triple fireball shot. But it got the arrow off before that tail could swing and attempt to pin him down. And Mr. Scrub with a hammer yump as well. We missed that. Does in fact get a little bit faster, so it does make up some time here. This is still a fairly close race. We're about maybe a minute apart from between the two runners. It looks like Misery Meyer is the next goal for SirLinkalot. Watching the Drago. Still coming back. Or no, that's a Dacto. Right. I gotta remember my names half the time. Going into Meyer Shed. Is there something here we need? Or is it safeties? Master Sword. Bombos. Both really good items for Cold Stare. Which we do need to fight.
Yeah, until they're having bombos for ice pallets, well, it's not required because these guys have the fire rod. If you're ever low on magic and you need a great cold stare shell, bombos is a really nice backup.
Looks like or something is in Checkerboard Cave. Maybe Ether? There it is. That's go mode for SirLinkalot. A third sword would be nice, but otherwise in perfect go mode. Master Silvers. Mr. Gruff now does have the crystal out of pod though, and will be catching up to SirLinkalot. But there is a lot of ground between SirLinkalot and Mr. Scruff. It's about a 60-second gap, I'd say.
And certainly execution-wise, both these runners have done quite well. It still seems like the biggest difference is that Mr. ScruffNinjaTuna went to Paradox Cave a little bit earlier and got his blue mail. And that's really ate up a little bit more time.
Now, the only thing that could save Mr. ScruffNinjaTuna is maybe finding the Tempered Sword alongside the route. But SirLinkalot knows where it is too, so it's a matter of, do they feel the time sink to go get the Tempered Sword is worth it at this juncture? And honestly, I'm inclined to say no, it might not be enough. Sure, it saves you time in the Ganon fight, but depending on where it is, it may be used just for Ganon, and it might be too much time to go get. Of course, it could also just be on the way for all we know.
And certainly the upgrade to Tempered Sword from Master Sword is quite the damage advantage.
Oh, it is a significant advantage.
Yeah,
Being able to just slash Ganon instead of doing spin attacks in order to advance the phases, that easily saves like 2 minutes. Maybe 1.5 with good execution on the Master Sword spins.
Yeah, and given that these runners also have to do Cold Stare, they do have the hammer, but if they can get tempered, that would certainly save them some more time as well. Now, in theory, these runners don't have the boots yet, and the GT Big Keys could still be on the torch.
Do you know where it is that they want to go get it? Well, we'll get to the GT Big Key in a little bit. It's me we're talking about here, after all.
Yeah, speaking of keys that you don't want them to be in their vanilla locations.
Yeah. Actually, if you want, GT Big Key's not normally on the torch. It's actually in behind Ice Armos. So.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was looking at I was watching SirLinkalot's Meyer dip here, and he had to go to the cutscene chest, which is vanilla, to get the.
I noticed.
Yeah, it's also just the nice placement of silvers in pod will also make Vitrius go a lot faster. It won't actually matter what sword these guys are on.
They absolutely melt Vitrius, so they have a fairly clean road to the end game of the seed. Just a matter of where that third sword is that they want to pick it up, and where the big key is in Ganon's tower. So other things that we could see SirLinkalot pick up to have an easier time: half magic, maybe also the other armor upgrade if it's on the way. We'll see. We still haven't seen what Ice Palace has in store for us yet.
Yeah, given that these guys both have silvers, half magic probably isn't required, or it's just probably like a nice to have thing because they're not under as much pressure to get torch glitch. But certainly, just especially if you still need to fight full stare, half magic with fire rod is a very nice upgrade.
Yeah, and also to point out here, SirLinkalot is still in danger of getting one shot by Ganon. He does not have 9 hearts yet on Green Mail. Whereas MrScruffNinjaTuna, also on 8 hearts, but because he's on Blue Mail, he only takes 6 damage from Ganon's contact damage, so he is safe, provided he stays above that threshold. And Ganon's damage can build up over time, too, if you get caught in the fire shield.
Alright, 5 crystals down for SirLinkalot. Looks like he is going to make his way to Swamp. Finally happy, I'm sure, that he could use the traditional Dark World entry portal here with the hammer.
By a guard, though. That's not fun.
Yeah, I did enjoy at least seeing, only 20 rupees on Vitrius. I think the game would have had quite the sense of humor if there was like a 300 rupee drop there. Vitrius for MrScruffNinjaTuna. I think he was maybe potentially upset that he had to use an extra arrow, but down goes Vitrius, very clean. Alright, SirLinkalot is entering Swamp Palace right at 51:11. Once we can also time what MrScruffNinjaTuna does after he enters Swamp. We'll get a better idea of what the time difference is between these two runners.
But we only really have an idea if Mr. Scruff also goes into Swamp Palace right away.
Yes. So I mean, given that their last crystal would be Ice Palace, yeah, I guess it would just be whatever they want at their discretion. It looks like he wants to Swamp here.
Swamp Palace for Mr. Scruff as well, which is good.
Sadly, still no boots. So your theory that the boots might be in GT, is still alive.
At this point, they're in go mode, and if they don't have the boots yet, either the boots are in a very out of the way location they're not going to get, or they are in GT and they'll pick them up if needed. Or if they're on the way. At this point, I'm kind of inclined to believe the former, honestly. Because you would get the boots before you go into Swamp.
Yeah, and it's certainly still, as you mentioned before, this whole risk versus reward thing. Looks like there's nothing in Swamp at this point, at least so far in the front. But so doing GT Gauntlet though without the boots is not something that most runners are probably used to, because there are a lot of boost-based strats that you can get through those rooms very quickly. And so it still very well could be worth runners' times, even if they're in GT to go pick them up.
Yeah, the one room I can think of that's gonna give them the most trouble is the triple Staphos room in the Gauntlet. But they have Ether, so they can easily just clear that room with that and be on their way. They can also just outright say screw any sort of RNG in that room whatsoever and just cast Bombos repeatedly. And if that will cost a lot of magic, but I wouldn't be surprised they go get a blue potion for safety before they enter Jan's tower.
Alright, this is looks like a pure go mode swamp, not even opening a single chest. Not even the one that's those are on the way. Alright, both runners looks like they will have Master Sword here, so unfortunately they will have to do 2 slashes to kill the puffs. You see SirLinkalot trying to get 1 puff at a time. I know that some runners like to try and pull 2. I mean, it's definitely harder in terms of execution. And sometimes in a spoil log race, you just do what you're either comfortable with or what you can consistently do. Alright, very nice one-shot silver arrow to Argus phase 2. That shot is surprisingly difficult, given how big Argus himself is. The hitbox to actually hit Argus is surprisingly small.
It's also the fact that with Argus, he moves very erratically in the room, and he's actually about as fast as Sorare, so leading your shot is also fairly difficult to hit him with.
We did see a virtual diver down on MrScruffNinjaTuna side. This was not done on SirLinkalot side. Looks like he did, in this case, the cane setup.
Yeah. We're going to Ice Palace now. They do have Samara, so if they know any one trick that's Icebreaker, or then if they don't know it, this could be this could lead to Mr. Scruff actually pulling ahead here. Also, side note, I do like the swimming spray for Mr. Scruff. How the Gumo just pulls out a snorkel.
Yeah. Definitely a big shout out to all of our very talented sprite artists for this game. I mean, some of these sprites are just amazing to see.
And yeah, I was pretty sure that Sterling does know Icebreaker. Was speaking theoreticals. Anyway, moving on here, we're gonna go. Oh no, we're not doing Pen Gator, so there's something in the Pen Gator room we need.
Alright, so I think we did see on MrScruffNinjaTuna's side, he did try and pull a couple puffs at a time, so I think he probably gained a little bit of time. Also the very same clean one-shot silver arrow. But certainly this is still a very, very, very close race.
Come down to Ganon, this one.
Yeah, and assuming these guys can't find a 3rd sword, if they have to do Master Sword Ganon, I mean, lots of things can happen in those very many spins.
Yeah, SirLinkalot still does have the fairy though, whereas Mr. Scruff has no safety other than a red potion. We'll see which one goes where. And also, there's the half magic I was mentioning earlier, so that's a nice safety that SirLinkalot now has. Can definitely be liberal with magic going up the tower as well to clear the gauntlet.
That is actually probably one of the best placed magic refill spots, because that means that you can probably mess up Icebreaker like a lot of times, basically deplete your entire magic bar, and then you just get a free magic refill right in time for a cold lifter.
Never actually thought about that, but that is actually a good point. Fire Rod equipped for SirLinkalot here in the Freezer room of all things. Might be looking to pick something else up here, maybe another safety. Maybe the boots. Maybe the 3rd sword.
That's pretty close to vanilla.
It really is, yeah. Normally the blue armor is in that big chest that you just saw right there. Oh, but the switch isn't thrown.
Oh man, did we miss this? Did we miss that he did not hit the switch?
SirLinkalot takes a death. but it has the fairy.
Oh no! Yeah, it sounds like was he trying to death warp back to the beginning?
He's erroring. So Mr. Scruff has just now pulled ahead due to an error with SirLinkalot's routing. I think he forgot to flip the crystal switch before doing Icebreaker.
Oh no! Oh no! Alright, well, Mr. ScruffNinjaTuna is still on Icebreaker. We did, at least I saw him flip the switch earlier, so this is just, he's just basically gave up a little bit of time, but still, very, very, very close race here.
Oh, he did hit the switch, but he double hit it. Ooh, that's unfortunate.
Kudos to Mr. ScruffNinjaTuna, very nicely pulling off Icebreaker and not giving into muscle memory by pulling the tongue. Because normally when you do Ice Palace forwards, you would need to pull that tongue in order to get the chest that contain half magic. But of course, in this case, because Icebreaker, you're doing the dungeon backwards, so you actually do not need to pull the tongue.
Well, you didn't need to pull the tongue for the half magic because the half magic was in the big key chest.
Oh, it was here. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. All right. So we see SirLinkalot making his way back down the second time. It is probably within what, like 10 to 20 second difference at this point.
Yeah, the mistake there for SirLinkalot is very significant here. Little bit of a routing snafu, and that also made him lose his fairy, which in turn now means that he has no safety for Ganon. If he dies, then he has to redo the entire fight. Whereas Mr. Scruff now with the red mail can easily take 2 or 3 hits from Ganon and be perfectly safe, and does have the red potion on top of that.
Alright, so we see Mr. ScruffNinjaTuna really taking advantage of Bombos cracking the shell and then just full efficiency usage of half magic plus fire rod.
It's already required Ice Palace because the spawn key was in the boss. But anyway, folks, that is Crystal number 7, and we have a game we like to play with my special twist on it. We have 22 chests in Ganon's Tower, only one of which contains the big key, but the runners know which chest has the big key, so they will be opening as few chests as possible. So instead of giving us a number of how many chests they'll open, give us the specific chest you think the big key will be in. Now let's see if you guys can get it right.
Mr. ScruffNinjaTuna making his way up to GT. Taking the Super Money Cave version.
Yeah, Mr. Scruff's entering via the Dark World. Let's see if SirLinkalot follows suit.
Yeah, I've certainly seen runners want to do this. That usually just means that they want to enter the Dark World this way and not take the Turtle Rock portal. Unfortunately, slightly, I think this misses the hookshot pull to kind of get him over there quickly. Getting
Right.
bombs out, though, for his first item out. I wonder what this could mean.
The only thing that's bombable on the way to Ganon's Tower is Hookshot Cave. Could Floating Island have the third sword? We didn't actually get a look at Floating Island. This is the first time we've been at East Side. And yes, it looks like Mr. Scruff will be going over to Floating Island, because you would have the hookshot here if it was in the Hookshot Cave. And Sir Link is following suit.
Yeah, given that we've already seen both male upgrades and we've seen the silvers, I mean, this like the last possible thing that could be worth these runners' times at all is it has to be a sword upgrade.
Well, it could also be boots, but
Yes, also can be boots. You are absolutely correct.
so
How
our
could I
runners
forget
are
about
getting
my
the
favorite
tempered sword. There we go. That'll speed up their Ganon fights. And now onwards to Ganon's Tower for MrScruffNinjaTuna. Crossing the Lino Bridge. Those are a lot more threatening on inverted than they are in this game, to be perfectly honest.
Well, that's because in inverted you're here like super early with 3 hearts and green mail.
Yeah, and yet you can still survive getting shot by them in the face. It's their contact damage that'll one-shot you. Anyway, barriers now down for MrScruffNinjaTuna. First to enter Ganon's Tower. Let's see if you guys were correct with your guesses as to where the big key was.
Alright, so I saw Mr. Scruff entering at 103.34.
And it's about an 11-second difference. And the torch is not in play. So, boots may not be required this seed.
Alright, so we see both runners heading right, so chances are no compass room today.
Entering Dark Magician room with a mirror in hand. I think it's safe to say it's in Dark Magician room here. There it is, big key and a mirror. So I think it's safe to divulge a few things. Would you agree, Clear Mouse?
Feel free to tell our wonderful chat and audience
well,
what you would like them to know.
Well, first and foremost, you guys are wondering where the ice run was, and in fact, it was in Dark Magician room as well with the big key in the northeast chest. And both runners are not going to be getting the fourth sword today, because that's behind, I believe, Ice Armos, if I'm reading this right. Yeah, it's in the Ice Armos room here in Ganon's Tower. As far as the boots, someone's been saying it's boots on pedestal. You're unfortunately wrong. It's in our worst location, actually. Mimic Cave has the boots today. And with a non-required Turtle Rock, you were not getting that. And for the curious, in case you guys were wondering where Quake was, let me just go ahead and take a look real quick, because I forgot. Quake was in Skullwoods in the map chest.
So if boots were early in Turtle Rock, like like the first chest, on the right in the roll room, or maybe it's even on the far lock side, I could potentially see some of these runners maybe dipping. I mean, it's still pretty out of the way, but at least it would be early because you had to do Skullwoods, and if it's maybe like a minute out of your way, it might be worth it, maybe. But yeah, Mimic Cave is completely out of the way here. Like, there's just no way they're going to go probably even further. The second room.
If it was on the first floor, then yeah, it would be worthwhile that I said to go get the boots. And someone's wondering the bug it is, and just for you, I'll say it, it's on Desert Ledge. Our runners could have gone and got that.
Alright, both of these runners making their way through the gauntlet. Without boots, unfortunately, as there was no way they were going to get them. Looks like Mr. Scruff Ninja is almost clearing through Lambo 2. With SirLinkalot following suit right behind. I think in this case, Mr. ScruffNinjaTuna ended up missing some silver arrow shots, so this is going to be a potential location where SirLinkalot can gain a little bit of time back.
Right. See, what's in Mimic Cave? It's just, it's disgusting to see. On top of the convoluted route we had going forward with the seed, with the hammer being locked behind the Pyramid Fairy, which had the fire rod, which locked Woods, and yeah, it was just a mess. The early game, the first half of the seed was an absolute mess trying to get that hammer, and then it just smoothed out once you got it.
All right, so we actually did see Mr. ScruffNinjaTuna having a little bit of trouble getting through those red guards in that previous room. He did end up using his red potion because he was down to 1 heart. So I think this actually means that for both runners, they do not have any more safeties. this will be a pure execution battle because so these guys don't have the powder as a safety, and neither runner, as you mentioned, picked up the bug net, so they couldn't even catch any fairies if they could to keep it.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of powder,
I was actually gonna look that up because I forgot where it was. But there it is. That's a nice safety to have, though.
that is a nice safety to have. Looks like it probably won't help MrScruffNinja in this particular location because there won't be any more fairy fairy opportunities. But yes, like if they had the bug net, they could potentially have kept one.
All right. Moldorm exploding at 108.16 for MrScruffNinjaTuna. This really came down to Ice Palace. It just shows you how tight of a race this was. One minor slip in execution, and the race just completely flip-flopped. That's the level that we are on with these races right now. And that says a lot about the runners themselves and how good they are at this game. Nice triple there from Mr. Scruff. That is 4 hits now on Aghanim 2. And a nice double after missing the first shot. Good, clean Aghanim 2 fight. It is now time for Mr. Scruff to fight the pig. Red male, 8 hearts, can survive 2... No, can only survive 1 hit, actually. But with half magic and the cape, should be a pretty easy fight with Tempered Sword.
MrScruffNinja dropping down again and right around 109.39.
Yeah. And this race is still not over. If Mr. Scruff somehow dies to Ganon, Mr. Link could still pull ahead and win.
A Ganon fall or a death would certainly flip this lead very much in SirLinkalot's favor.
And Mr. Scruff is taking a hit from the spear. So, can only survive 1 hit, 1 maybe 2 hits from Ganon. Gonna use the cape to play it safe. 12 more hits here with the sword slashes. 6 spins alternatively. Alright, that should be 12. Get another hit for good measure. Into phase 3. Should be fairly straightforward, but does have to be careful, because if he falls in the pit, that is going to end this race. It also could come down to triples here. Or doubles with the silver arrows.
SirLinkalot doing a very nice job on Ganon the first couple phases. Also pulling out the cape to make sure that he doesn't die.
Instant silver for Mr. Scruff. Gets the torch glitch, but Ganon's not in an ideal position. That's a single. And another single.
We see MrScruffNinjaTuna in chat. So did you fall?
Like it. Ladies and gentlemen, get your GGs in chat for MrScruffNinjaTuna, who has completed this game and is about to cross the finish line here. And that is first place with an official time of 1 hour, 26 minutes, 15 seconds. Do note that that does include the 15-minute study period, so his actual time is 1 hour, 11 minutes, 15 seconds.
GG, MrScruffNinjaTuna, you played the scene very well. Alright, we see SirLinkalot here wrapping up Ganon.
One more shot, I think.
Super close race from both these guys.
Yes, very close. It came down to it just came down to execution. And there we go. GG's to SirLinkalot, who is finished with a total time of 1 hour, 26 minutes, 58 seconds. Again, taking into account the study period, that is 1 hour, 11 minutes, 58 seconds. This race was a 43-second difference. This was extremely close. Could have gone either way.
Yeah, and certainly kudos for both these runners to actually make a fairly, I would say, like cohesive and sane route at the very beginning to actually like get to basically Dark World access and actually get all the progression items. It was, yeah, as you mentioned, it was a very convoluted seed.
Yeah, it was just an absolute mess. Mid game and late mid game, it kind of bled into it a little bit, but then it smoothed out, and then late game was pretty clear sailing because you had tempered silvers to frap things up. But man, that Moon Pearl on there, and I suppose we'll find out what Pedestal has in a moment here from the credits sequence, and we also see what the Mushroom has as well. And we are now joined by MrScruffNinjaTuna. GG's and congratulations on your win, sir.
GG's, Mr. ScruffNinjaTuna.
So, this race was like a minute apart constantly. It was so close on multiple regards.
I figured as much with the layout of everything. This was just going to be insane. It really came down to how well we killed the bosses. And at first, I actually tuned into the stream just after I finished Misery Mire. Or, excuse me, no, just as I finished Swamp. And so I saw him just enter Ice Palace. And I was thinking, oh, so he's a little bit ahead. But I noticed on this tracker he didn't have Swamp done. I'm like, oh my gosh, am I full dungeon ahead of him? And then I saw the tracker update.
What actually... That Ice Palace is actually where things turned around for you, actually.
Yeah, I saw that. That honestly hurts. I feel bad. Because with the time difference it took him to catch up, he would have beat me by like 30 seconds.
Yeah, that one error flipped his entire race on its head. That's the best way to describe it. But it was still an extremely close race, and you probably could have even closed that gap with your execution. So, yeah. It's hard to tell what would have happened there, but that's how the races go sometimes. These are very critical races at some point. One mistake could cost you several minutes of time, be it a death or a simple execution error like that.
Yeah, I think even if SirLinkalot didn't have a mishap for Icebreaker, even when coming out of GT, I think you actually gained some more time on him, just purely based on your execution. So, Wolflink is certainly right in that we actually don't know what would have happened, because it certainly did look like you had that execution through GT.
It would have been super close, I will say that, because that Aga, holy cow, this is the luckiest Aga fight I've ever had, because I thought I was going to have the worst after that first one. It's like, easy triple! I get one.
Yeah.
You certainly fooled us if you thought you were having trouble, though. I mean, from our perspective, it looked very clean. So.
And it looks like...
yes, it's all intentional.
So it looks like SirLinkalot will not be joining us. GG's to him, though, as well. Oh, and again, I feel I can't. There's no words really. I will say this much: he did do pretty good in this race. He honestly, I don't want to sound objective here, but I think this race he should have won. But
I agree. I agree full-heartedly.
Yeah, it just came down to one mistake, and that's how these good races go sometimes, honestly.
Yep. It really is down to luck in a lot of cases. But
yeah.
GG's to Linkalot. He's an awesome dude.
Yeah.
So definitely give him a follow, guys. It's worth it.
So Linkalot will still be competing in Week 7 of the Swiss, but he will now, with a record of 3-3, be unable to advance into qualifiers, I believe. Mr. Scruff, on the other hand, I believe you still have a shot at getting into the bracket.
Yes, and I will more than likely fail spectacularly.
Pressure's on, but good luck to you all the same. And hopefully, good luck to SirLinkalot in having a nice, relaxing 7th week.
Definitely. Well, thanks for the restream, everybody, for the comms and the tracking. It was really fun. I got a skedaddle.
Oh, thank you for putting on such a great race for us. It was very enjoyable to watch.
My pleasure. And thanks for everyone watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Well, I'll see you next time.
Yeah. So, folks, make sure to follow our two runners here, SirLinkalot and MrScruffNinjaTuna. They put on an excellent race for us today. Very close race. Also, we're on SpeedGaming 3. Make sure you follow SpeedGaming and SpeedGaming 2 through 6 so you don't miss any racing action. Not just the spoiler log tournament here from us. Also, make sure to give my co-commentator Clearingmouse a follow here on Twitch, as well as our tracker, Yorkin's wife. And you can drop me a follow too if you want. I have been Wolfling0370, and before we sign off for the night, I almost forgot. Let's check the schedule and see what other matches we have coming up for you, shall we? I almost forgot to do this again. It's a common thing. So we have a match going on right now, which is probably ended by now. It's over on SpeedGaming, Relkin versus Sailor Nep. If that's still going on, it's going to be in its final moments. But join us later tonight on SpeedGaming 2 for Kern versus Act the Boker on SpeedGaming 2. That is a 3-2 match. Just like here, is a elimination match here for the brackets. And then join us in the very wee hours of Friday morning for a 4-1 match, Geardo versus Arior on SpeedGaming 1. But yeah, that's all we're going to do with us here. So all of us here at the Link to Vast Randomizer Spoiler Tournament, I've been Wolfling0370, and we just see you all next time, and thank you for watching. Have a good night, everyone.